this your dream?
We really appreciate you having a conversation with us. Thanks, Winnie. What a honor, what a privilege. You know, I always call you and I say, one thing I do admire is your courage and your beauty.
I have never really been that vain to acknowledge those sorts of things. I actually find that a bit embarrassing.
Oh, well, we're going to be talking a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
But I want you to see this as a storytelling hour with your children, your grandchildren sitting in front of the fireplace, asking you questions. Grandma, tell us about the good old bad days, if one wants to call them that. Who is Winnie? Many people don't really understand who is this charismatic, enigmatic woman. Who is Winnie?
I don't know where the story begins. I am not one of those who had an opportunity to plan and say to myself, today I have woken up and this is my plan, this is what I'm going to do. In the South African situation, I think there were very few mothers who had that opportunity during those times to plan anything. Our lives were determined by the political situation of the country at the time. And we led a day-to-day kind of life which was determined more by who you were fighting against than yourself. I never had that opportunity of saying to myself, today I'll take my children to school, I will perform the normal wifely duties. There never was such a time. From the onset, I need to point out that I was the most married woman. Even though I was supposed to be married, have a family, I've never really known what it is to have a married family life, a normal life, with a normal nucleus of a family where there's a father, a mother, and children, and waking up and having a breakfast together, and then you hold your children by their little arms and you take them to school. I've never seen any of my children on their first day at school. I was banned and prohibited from entering educational institutions, so I relied a great deal on friends to do the sorts of normal things a mother does.
Are you angry about what has happened to you in general? I mean, you fought for this country, you kept the Mandela name alive. There you were in banishment, you were in solitary confinement.
You know, I think we fought so hard, so ferociously for our freedom, that having attained that political freedom was so rewarding that I didn't even have an opportunity to get angry. I cannot pretend that during the years of struggle I was not angry. I was, of course, filled with rage, seeing my people dying all around me, particularly in 1976, which is one of the most tragic periods of our history. I was a young bride then, and I had never really lived as a married family woman with a normal life. So my life was always determined by the political situation of the time. I led a day-to-day existence which was determined by the security branch of the day. I never knew what I was going to wake up to.
If your grandchildren then asks, as we're sitting around this fire, Grandma, what was your worst moment when you were banished?
There were so many. there were so many those times. Those were very difficult times. Perhaps a person like myself would single out the punishment to Brantford, the separation with my children, and what the security branch did almost every time my children were coming back from boarding school. By the way, I had to place them in boarding schools at a very early age because of the problem of spending a lot of time in prison. I was arrested, I was in and out of prison almost every month, if not every week. And the consequence of that was the children were always left alone. So I had to farm them out to boarding schools at an extremely tender age. They were ironically in a school called Our Lady of Sorrows in Swaziland. I had to find them a place there. When they were not at Our Lady of Sorrows, my white mother, Helen Joseph, used to take the children whenever I got arrested and they were back from school and they found me in prison. So those were perhaps the cruelest moments which have left an indelible mark in my heart that is still a very sore point to this day. I had no opportunity to see them growing up. I had no opportunity to help them with their homework and see to how they were performing in school like an ordinary family.
One of the children then asks, Grandma, solitary confinement, this dark room all by yourself, how did you survive?
I think that was God's miracle. If I did not believe, if I was not a Christian, I don't think I would have survived that period of my life. The 18 months in solitary confinement was the third worst aspect of my life that was very difficult to live with, and it left scars nothing can heal. I was detained at the central prison, the female section. The day they came to get me, as they always did, that one was the most painful of all the imprisonment I had suffered. The children were tugging on my skirt, crying, "Mommy, don't go, Mommy, don't go." And the police were so ruthless. There must have been about 30 to 40 police who came to arrest me. This was at 3 a.m. in the morning. And the usual thing was you heard bangs all over the doors. They were kicking the doors, they kicked in the windows. And that noise alone still lives with me to this day. And the degree of anger with which one was arrested was beyond belief.
For the good of the world, for the good of our children, for the good of those South Africans who really don't quite know the pain that Winnie Mandela as a person has undergone or went through. The pain you still are in many ways, because I know you're still continuing your social work life with people. Your other child then asked, your other grandchild asked, "Grandma, they say there was this thing called interrogation. It was really harsh."
Our particular interrogation, I was part of 22 of us who were detained. By the way, you have no idea whatsoever who else is detained. I thought I was alone in prison. And when they came to fetch me from the cell, I knew that I either had to survive fighting or I had to surrender. There were only two options. And in my particular case, I was picked up this day on a Monday. I had been in detention for almost a month then. I was taken to the headquarters of interrogation. It was called a compound. That is where people lost their lives. On the first day of my interrogation, you are sitting alone on the chair. You are with these interrogating officers. There were about 10 of them in my case. Some behind, others in front, on the sides. Firstly, the first week in prison, you can't swallow. It becomes difficult to even swallow a glass of water. You just develop this bitterness in your mouth, and you lose your person. You just become an object that belongs to them. So when they took me to the cell for interrogation to the police headquarters, and they started interrogation. I was interrogated for 7 days and 7 nights, non-stop, not what they subsequently did later on when they would take a detainee back to the cells and bring the detainee back. I was interrogated continuously for 7 days and 7 nights, and what was relieving at the time, the body has a way of dealing with extreme pain. I welcomed the moments when I fainted. The body took care of itself. When I couldn't take it anymore, after being tortured, like all of them, like all other detainees, I was tortured too, and I was urinating blood, and I couldn't even lift up my legs at the end of the interrogation, because you get so swollen from lack of sleep and non-sleeping for 7 days and 7 nights, that I don't think there was anything that would be more cruel. So whatever happened thereafter, you sort of get numbed with pain. I think South Africa, like other revolutionary movements, has a tendency of consuming its heroes. I haven't seen the accolades we have been seeing today about a simple little girl who left the country for whatever reasons at the time, who is now welcomed as Charlize. I would have loved to see that happening for a Helen Joseph, a Lillian Ngoyi, Florence Madomela. Some of them are actually unknown by this generation. The Miriam Sodindas, the Florence Mposhos, women who gave up their lives for the struggle. I think today I am actually loved that much by the so-called media and those sorts of people who have hang-ups about apartheid. I would throw in the towel. I quite enjoy the fact that I will always prick their consciences. I will always remind them of the painful past they want us to forget. I will always be that person who nags their consciences when they pretend everything is just fine. South Africa is free.